Sunday morning in Charleston, the bells of St. Augustine rang as sunlight spilled through stained glass windows, breaking into shards of gold and crimson across the marble floor. The organ swelled, the choir's voices floated upward into the arches, and rows of guests sat in rapt silence. The bride moved slowly down the aisle, draped in lace and satin, as if a dream had stepped into daylight. At the very back of the church sat Claire Miller holding a worn canvas bag. Her brown hair was tied back with a faded ribbon. Beside her was Lily, her 6-year-old daughter, in a second-hand white dress, just a size too big. The little girl's eyes, however, glowed as brightly as the glass above. "Look, honey," Claire whispered. "She looks like a princess." Mommy Lily asked, "Do you think one day I could wear a dress like that? One day if you want it." Claire promised with a quiet smile, though sadness flickered in her eyes. When the vows were spoken and the kiss sealed, the union, applause erupted. Guests began rising, moving toward the courtyard, where flowers waited. Claire stayed behind. She looked at Lily. "Let's take one picture near the altar. Just so you remember this day," she said. Hand in hand, they tiptoed past empty pews. Claire knelt beside her daughter, raised her phone. "Smile, baby." Click. She was about to take a second photo when a sharp voice sliced the silence. "Excuse me." "Just what do you think you're doing?" Claire turned. A woman in an emerald gown necklace, glittering brows lifted in disdain, stood watching. Miranda Pierce, the bride's older sister, well known in Charleston for her money and her cruelty. "We were just," Claire began. "Crashing," Miranda snapped. "This isn't a shelter. You think you can dress your child up in rags and slip her in here? People like you don't belong." Lily shrank behind her mother. "Mommy." "Are we bad?" Claire's throat locked. She couldn't speak. Heat rose to her face, shame burning through her skin. Then from the aisle, a low voice cut the air. "Enough!" All turned. A tall man in a dark suit walked forward, his presence commanding silence. His name rippled in hushed whispers: Graham Whitfield, millionaire, founder of the Whitfield Foundation. A man who rarely appeared in public, but whose influence stretched through the city. He stopped beside Claire and Lily. His eyes didn't leave Claire's. "Who told you she had no one?" he asked Miranda calmly. No one answered. "Because from this moment," Graham continued, steady, certain, "they are with me." Gasps broke out. He removed his jacket, draped it over Claire's shoulders, then crouched before Lily. Gently, he dabbed her tears with his handkerchief. "You're not bad," he said softly. "You're braver than anyone here." Lily blinked at him, tears slowing. Claire could only stare, stunned. "Come," Graham said, guiding them down the aisle out into the light. For the first time that day, Claire felt the weight lift from her chest. She didn't understand why. She only knew that in the sound of the bells and the warmth of a stranger's jacket, one thing had changed forever. Later that afternoon, Graham invited them to a quiet cafe near Charleston's historic quarter. The lamps glowed soft. The wood smelled of age and coffee beans. Lily pressed her face to the window, tracing shapes on the glass. Graham set a silver business card on the table. "Whitfield Foundation." Claire shook her head. "You don't need to do this. I'm nobody. I just serve coffee at a diner. Clean motel rooms when I can. I'm not qualified for anything you'd need." "You're exactly what we need," Graham replied. "We're hosting a scholarship fundraiser soon. We need someone who treats people with dignity. I saw it in the way you held your daughter." Claire hesitated. "And Lily, I don't have childcare at night." "She can come. There's a reading room for children in the venue. Space to draw. She'll be welcome." Claire thought of the unpaid bills scattered across her kitchen table, of the rent looming, of Lily's sneakers worn through at the toes. The card on the table gleamed like a door half open. "All right," she whispered. That evening, Lily colored with her wax crayons. She drew a tall man holding a paper boat standing beside a woman with tied-back hair and a little girl in a white dress. Above them, stars. On the bottom, she scrawled, "Family by the sea." Claire stared at the picture for a long time. "Who's the man, sweetie?" "The man who folds boats," Lily replied with a secretive smile. Claire laughed softly, but as she tucked Lily in, she touched the business card again and felt something she hadn't in years. Hope. The converted warehouse where the fundraiser would take place glowed with strung lights, red brick walls preserved like history. Claire took charge of seating charts and name tags, surprised by her own confidence. Lily nestled into the children's corner with crayons and books. Graham moved through the rooms quietly but firmly, his presence calming even the most frantic staff. He listened to Claire's ideas, nodded, adjusted. Each time she felt seen. One afternoon, Lily proudly handed Graham a paper boat. "His name is Bluebird," she said. Graham studied it. "I used to fold boats like this when I was little." "You hate carrots like me too," Lily added innocently. Graham laughed. Claire looked up, startled, remembering how he had pushed carrots aside at lunch. Then she noticed something else. He wrote notes with his left hand, same as Lily. That evening, Graham brewed tea in the staff kitchen. He placed a steaming cup in front of Claire, light with a slice of orange peel. Exactly how she liked it, though. She had only mentioned it once. "How did you?" she began. "I remember things," he said simply. Lily's drawings multiplied, Graham standing next to Claire, a heart between them, Lily in the middle. Claire pinned them to a corkboard and tried not to read too much into them. But each night, as rain tapped against the roof, she thought of how Graham looked at Lily as if the little girl were sunlight he had never known existed. The night before the fundraiser, the rain poured heavy. Inside the warehouse, Claire and Graham stayed late to finish preparations. Lily slept curled in a chair, clutching her paper boat. In the hush, Claire spoke. "When I was 21, I worked at a lakeside resort upstate. There was a summer party. I wasn't supposed to be there, but a friend snuck me in. I met a young man. We talked, we laughed until dawn. He never gave me his full name, only left a napkin signed with the letter G. By the next morning, he was gone. Weeks later, I learned I was pregnant." Her voice trembled. "I never told anyone. I didn't want him to think I wanted anything. I just kept going." Graham's chest tightened. He stared at Lily sleeping. The letter, the timeline, the memory of a girl by the lake. It clicked into place with a force that shook him. He said nothing that night. But when he returned to his office, he sent a private request to a lab. A DNA test. Confidential. Urgent. 3 days later, the fundraiser was hailed as a success. Claire was tired but glowing. Lily skipped beside her, humming. In his study, Graham sat with an envelope. Inside, the words screamed in silence, probability 99.9%. He pressed his hands to the desk, breathing hard. His daughter. Later, he watched Lily cut colored paper in the reading room. She looked up. "Mr. Graham, can I put this sale on your door so you never get lost?" His throat burned. Of course. That night, Claire caught him in the hallway, lost in thought. "I have something important to tell you," he began, then stopped. "But not tonight. You've worked too hard. Rest." She looked at him puzzled, then nodded. When she was gone, Graham leaned against the wall. He wanted her to believe he stayed for love, not obligation. But silence weighed like a lie. A storm swept through Charleston days later. Wind rattled windows, rain drummed on the roof. Lily was asleep. Claire, flushed with fever, sat on the couch. Graham brewed tea and brought it to her sitting nearby. They talked quietly, laughter woven through thunder. When she leaned against him, he kissed her tender, long delayed. For a moment the world stilled. Then Graham pulled back, his voice low. I have to tell you something. Lily. She's my daughter. I had the test done. Claire froze. How long have you known? 3 weeks. And you said nothing. I was afraid, he admitted. Afraid you'd think I only stayed because of blood. I wanted you to see I'm here because of you, because of her. Claire stood trembling. You let me walk blind into this. You stole my choice. How do I know what was real? It was all real, Graham pleaded. Silence is still a lie, she whispered. That night she gathered Lily half asleep, wrapped her in a coat, and left. The door shut quietly behind them, leaving only the paper boat on the table. The following days were gray. Graham wandered his foundation halls like a ghost. He stood before the corkboard of Lily's drawings, staring at a paper boat adrift without a mast. Finally, he called his staff. Arrange a press conference. No questions. I need to speak. The next day, cameras flashed as he stood at a podium. There is a little girl named Lily Miller, he began. She is my daughter. I did not know until recently, but my love for her began long before a test told me so. It began the day she handed me a paper boat. Gasps rippled. And I must say this, he continued. I fell in love before I knew the truth, with her mother, Claire. I stayed not from obligation, but because I want to be family. For the first time, I believe I deserve one. He folded the paper, left the stage. That night, in a small apartment, Claire sat on a worn couch, Lily curled in her lap. On the television, Graham's face trembled as he spoke those words. Mommy, Lily whispered, we don't have to hide anymore, right? Claire kissed her daughter's hair. No, sweetheart, we don't. 3 days later, on Lily's 7th birthday, Claire dressed her in a blue dress with a white ribbon. Together they stepped from a black car at the Whitfield estate. Balloons swayed along the driveway. Music drifted. Staff lined the path. The doors opened. Graham stood waiting. He didn't smile at first. He simply looked as if afraid to blink. Then Lily ran. Daddy. He caught her in his arms, holding her as if she might vanish again. Over her shoulder, his eyes met Claire's. She gave a small nod. The storm between them finally passed. That evening, the courtyard glowed with fairy lights. Children laughed, paper boats floated in the fountain. By the olive tree, Claire stood watching Lily play. Graham approached quietly. He took her hand, then knelt, not with a ring, but with steady eyes. The day our daughter was born, I wasn't there, he said. But today I am. I don't need a ceremony or a stage. I just need you. Will you be my home? Tears spilled down Claire's cheeks. Yes. Lily clapped, cheering. Kiss her, Daddy. They laughed through tears as Graham pulled Claire close. As dusk fell, a volunteer lifted a camera. One photo, Claire stood on one side, Graham on the other, Lily in the middle. They smiled not for the lens, but because they no longer had to run. Later, Graham read Lily to sleep. Claire leaned in the doorway, heart full. When Lily dreamed, they stepped outside under the quiet sky. On the kitchen wall hung the photo, slightly imperfect lighting, but perfect in meaning. Next to it was a shelf lined with Lily's paper boats. Each morning, Graham touched the frame as he passed, a reminder. Family was not bound by blood alone, but by the choice to stay, to protect, to love again and again. And in that choice, they found home.